What if the silence you're drowning in isn't punishment but preparation? Why do the doors stay shut even after you've done everything right? Why does the peace you seek seem to retreat the moment you reach for it? You've fasted from joy long enough. You've begged time to be kind. You've whispered prayers into the dark, hoping anyone would answer back. But what if stillness is the answer? What if the delay isn't against you, but realigning you? What if the ache in your chest isn't proof of abandonment, but the sound of your soul shedding what no longer belongs? You've come to the edge. You've looked over it, wondering if the promise was real or just another cruel mirage. But listen closely. You are not blocked. You are being rebuilt. This silence is sacred. This waiting is weightlifting. And the moment you stop demanding the breakthrough is the moment it quietly enters the room. Not because you earned it, but because you finally became still enough to receive it. Keep listening, because what's been delayed was never denied. It was simply being made divine. Why is God silent when you are doing everything right? You've prayed, you've waited, you've surrendered more times than you can count. Yet nothing moves. The heavens are still. The doors remain closed. And the ache of divine delay wraps around your chest like invisible chains. You start asking questions you never thought you'd ask. Is something wrong with me? Am I not faithful enough? Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I stand here, forgotten? But what if you're not being punished? You're being prepared. What if the silence is not the absence of God, but the presence of something sacred? This isn't about punishment. This is about alignment. This message isn't for the ones chasing shortcuts. This is for the soul who's cried in private, stayed faithful in silence, and still shows up every day asking, why hasn't God released it yet? You thought the delay was a punishment, but delay is the mercy of God protecting you from what you cannot yet carry. Delay is his signature of love, because he would rather offend your timeline than hand you a blessing that destroys you. Let's go back, not your childhood, not to your pain, but to that sacred moment when you believed the promise. You heard it in your spirit. You knew it was for you. A whisper from heaven burned in your chest. I will do it. And so you started to prepare. You built the vision. You walked in obedience. You even resisted the temptation to settle for less. But then silence. No confirmation. No breakthrough. Just delay. The challenge isn't the silence itself. It's what the silence begins to stir. Doubt, fatigue, resentment. You look around and wonder why others are flying while you are still in the wilderness. But here's the divine twist. The wilderness isn't a detour, it's a furnace. Because God doesn't just fulfill promises, he builds people who can carry them. If he gave it to you now, it might feed your ego more than your soul. If he opened the door today, your character might not withstand what your calling will demand. He waits not because he is far, but because you are becoming. God will never release what would corrupt you in your current state. He is not in the business of giving toys to children. He gives fire to those who can hold it without being consumed. There is a spiritual law at play here, and it cannot be bypassed. The weight of the blessing must match the strength of the vessel. This is not motivational fluff. This is eternal design. You cannot fake readiness. You cannot manifest what you are not yet aligned with, and you cannot receive from God what your character cannot sustain. Now hear this with spiritual clarity. The greatest shift happens not around you, but within you. Delay is not the absence of progress. It is the deepest kind of transformation. It's the pruning before the blooming. It's the silence before the roar. It's the moment where the soul is stripped of ambition, entitlement, impatience, until all that remains is hunger and trust. And when that shift happens, when you no longer beg for outcomes but burn only for him, that is when heaven begins to move. There's a passage in nature that always echoes God's timing. The bamboo tree. You plant it, water it, feed it, wait on it for years and see nothing. But what you cannot see is the root system digging deep under, because when it finally breaks the surface, it grows 90 feet in weeks. That's divine delay. It looks like nothing is happening, but beneath the silence, heaven is building something unshakable. And when God does release it, it won't be partial. It won't be unstable. It will be final. It will be flawless. You won't have to force it, chase it, or prove anything. When it's time, no demon can block it. When it's time, no human can compete with it. When it's time, you won't even have to knock, the door will swing open. Now I say this with holy boldness. What you call delay, heaven calls mercy. What you feel is rejection, God designed as protection. He is not late, He is thorough. He is not silent, He is strategic. And He is not withholding, He is weighing your readiness. So if you're still in the waiting, don't pray for speed, pray for strength. Don't beg for the door. Become the kind of soul who doesn't need the door. Because once the heart releases its grip, once the demand dies and desire becomes devotion, that's when heaven moves. So I leave you with this. If you're still knocking, pause. If you're still pleading, breathe. And ask this one question. Am I truly ready for what I'm asking for? Because when God moves, and He will, it won't come because you chased it. It will come because you were ready to carry it with reverence. If this reached you, don't scroll past it. God delays nothing without a purpose. Share this with someone still waiting at the door of heaven. I trust divine timing. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep does not cure, a silence that is not peaceful, but hollow, and a hunger that no success, no relationship, no progress can satisfy. You've done the work, you've tried to be good, you've tried to be enough, but still something in you aches for more. Not more achievement, not more validation, something deeper. A fullness that doesn't disappear when the lights go off and no one's watching. And in that quiet ache, a question rises, slowly, painfully. Why hasn't it come yet? Why am I still waiting, still empty, still searching? If the gift was promised, why is it still out of reach? You see others receive what they barely prayed for. You hear voices saying, just believe, just act, just affirm. But you've done all that, and yet the silence remains. So let me ask you this. What if the delay isn't punishment, but preparation? What if the gift is ready, but you're not yet the person who can carry it without being crushed? He delays the gift to prepare the giver. To rush the promise is to ruin the soul. There is a law no one talks about. A spiritual law older than time, yet still true today. You do not receive what your hands can grab. You receive what your soul can hold. And right now, maybe your hands are ready, but your soul is not yet anchored, not yet emptied, not yet surrendered. Because to carry something sacred, you must first be hollowed out. We live in a world obsessed with arrival, with fast answers, with instant progress. But the soul doesn't move at the speed of the world. The soul is ancient. It does not grow through noise. It grows through refining, and refining is slow. Maybe the delay isn't about the gift. It's about you, not the you who performs, not the you who pleases, not the you who proves, but the one underneath, stripped of all masks, the quiet one, the surrendered one, the one who can finally hold the gift without making it your identity. You cannot receive what you are not yet ready to carry. Weight without wisdom will always break you. Many are asking for elevation, but they have not yet learned how to stand under the weight of obscurity. They want abundance, but cannot yet be trusted with silence. They want the platform, but have not yet crucified their craving to be seen. This is not judgment, this is truth. And truth is not loud, it's still. It confronts without shouting. It changes without force. There's a reason the sacred things are hidden, because sacredness cannot be handed to the unprepared, not by people, not by the universe, not by the divine. You say you're ready, but are you ready to carry it without being consumed by it? Ready to receive without attaching your worth to the outcome? Ready to walk with it and not worship it? The gift you've been praying for is weighty. It will stretch you, expose you, test you. And if you're not yet whole, it will become your identity instead of your So the silence, the pause, the wilderness, it is mercy. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. The soul is not built in the spotlight. It is shaped in shadows, in secret places where no one is watching, where motives are sifted, where desire is tested, where false hunger is burned off, until only truth remains. You're not waiting on God. You're waiting on your ego to get out of the way. The gift is not delayed. Your soul is being deepened to hold it. You must become lighter to carry what is heavy. You must be emptied to be filled. You must be hidden before you can be trusted to be seen. This is not punishment. This is design. The universe is not punishing you. The divine is not withholding. You are in the middle of a holy preparation. You may not see movement on the surface, but underneath, the roots are growing deep, because when the breakthrough comes, it will not come to visit. It will come to stay. and only a soul anchored in silence can host something sacred without it becoming corrupted. So let go of the timeline. Let go of the outcome. Let go of the fear that you've been forgotten. You haven't been forgotten. You've been chosen, and what you carry must be birthed in reverence, not demand, because no gift is sacred if it must be rushed, and no soul is ready until it no longer needs it to feel whole. So now, pause. Ask again, not with fear, but with honesty. Am I truly ready for what I'm asking for? Is your heart silent enough to receive? Is your ego quiet enough to let it be a gift, not a crown? Because when it comes, and it will not come to validate you. It will come to complete what's already been formed within you. So breathe, wait, prepare in the silence, and let the delay do its holy work. Because when the moment comes, you will not have to chase it. It will recognize you. The giver will be ready, and the gift will not crush you. It will crown you. The moment you feel like everything is falling apart might be the moment everything sacred is falling into place. The silence you feel right now, it isn't absence, it's alignment. You've been asking, why can't I break through? Why does every door feel locked? But maybe it's not rejection. Maybe it's protection. Maybe the doors that won't open are the ones that were never meant to. Maybe the delay isn't denial. Maybe it's a sacred kind of rescue. And maybe the fire that's been surrounding you lately, the pressure, the heat, the uncertainty, it's not here to destroy you. It's here to remake you, to strip off the parts of you that can't carry the weight of the next blessing. So the question isn't when will it end? The question is, will you let the fire finish its work? Because some breakthroughs are not given, they're forged. They're born in silence, born in surrender, born when we stop demanding answers and start listening for truth. You thought it was a closed door, but it was a sacred guardrail. You thought it was a dead end, but it was the hand of the unseen pulling you off the road that would have destroyed your soul. I remember standing at the threshold of a massive opportunity, one I'd prayed for, dreamed of, sacrificed for. Everything looked perfect on paper. Every piece seemed aligned. I told myself this was the moment, the one where everything would finally open, but it didn't. Without warning, the opportunity collapsed. The people disappeared. The plans unraveled, and the silence that followed felt like punishment. I thought I'd missed it, failed the test, lost my shot. But I was wrong, because 3 months later the truth came out. What I thought was a blessing was a snare. The very people I wanted to walk with were walking over others. The stage I wanted to stand on was hollow underneath. It would have swallowed me whole. What I thought was a delay was deliverance. What I called failure was favor in disguise. You see, the higher path rarely makes noise. It rarely shows off. It protects in secret. It reroutes in silence. Closed doors don't always mean something's wrong with you. Sometimes they mean there's something right with your destiny. Because you weren't born to settle for almost. You weren't created for counterfeit comfort. And the path you're on is too important to be sabotaged by your own short-sightedness. So when it feels like the answer is no, ask again, but not to the world. Ask yourself, what unseen danger am I being spared from? And then trust the answer you don't hear, because some of the most divine answers are delivered in silence. That's how sacred protection works. It doesn't always warn you, it just reroutes you. And the ego hates it, because the ego wants applause, not alignment. But the soul is after something deeper. The soul knows if the door is closed, it's for a holy reason. And peace isn't found in breaking it down. Peace is found in blessing the detour. The fire is not to burn you, it's to forge you. There was a season where I lost everything that made me feel valuable: position, reputation, relationships. It was like life turned off the spotlight, and for the first time I had to face who I really was without the applause. It felt cruel. I asked questions like, why me? Why now? What did I do wrong? But those weren't the right questions. The fire wasn't here to punish me. It was here to purify me, to burn off the masks I'd worn for years, to expose the parts of me that still needed to be healed, not praised. I learned this the hard way. The fire doesn't come when you're weak. It comes when you're ready, not when you feel ready, but when you are. And it doesn't ask your permission. It just shows up. It shows up as loss, as betrayal, as silence, as pressure that makes you want to crawl out of your skin and hide in the comfort of your old life. But that's the point. The old life can't hold who you're becoming, because you weren't made for shallow approval. You weren't made for a life that flatters your ego and starves your soul. You were made to carry fire. And if you're going to carry fire, you first have to become fire. So when the heat rises, stop running, stop praying for escape, and start asking what in me needs to burn. Because the truth is, you can't become whole until something in you dies. Maybe it's the addiction to being liked. Maybe it's the illusion that control keeps you safe. Maybe it's the belief that you have to earn love. Whatever it is, the fire knows. And it will not stop until what's false is consumed and what's holy is revealed. The fire is your friend. It doesn't burn down your life, it burns down your limits. So let it. Let it take what was never yours. Let it strip what can't go with you. And let it reveal the gold you forgot was buried underneath all that fear. Soul does not grow in comfort. It grows in contradiction. It grows when you're forced to let go of the version of yourself you worked so hard to maintain, and become the version you were created to be. Let that death happen. Let the fire do its work, because every forge needs flames, and every calling needs purification, not for the sake of punishment, but for power. Power that's quiet, power that's anchored, power that can't be stolen by applause or broken by rejection. The path is not easy, it's not fast, it's not always clear, but it is sacred. And if you can sit in the silence, if you can stay in the fire, if you can walk past the closed doors without bitterness, you'll arrive. Not just at your breakthrough, but at the version of yourself that can carry the breakthrough without break. So I leave you with this. Stop mourning what didn't happen. Start trusting what's still being built in silence. The fire is not here to burn you, it's here to build you. And the door that didn't open, that was your deliverance, dressed as disappointment. Honor it. Let it go. And walk forward. Not with answers but with awareness. Because you've been protected, you've been chosen, and you are being forged for more. You've been taught that progress looks like striving, like noise, like motion. But what if I told you the soul doesn't move when you do? What if all your pushing, all your planning, all your effort is the very thing blocking the blessing you were promised? You pray for peace and then sprint straight past it. You beg for answers, but drown them out with noise. You want the divine to speak, but you never stop talking long enough to listen. So I ask you, what if the breakthrough isn't missing? What if it's simply waiting for you to stop running? What if the reason you haven't heard from the heavens is because your ego is still answering every call? Heaven waits for the soul that stops striving, because until the striving dies, you cannot be trusted with the stillness. The presence of peace is the absence of self. You are not being delayed, you're being detoxed. Let me tell you the truth most won't admit. I was addicted to motion, not ambition, not vision, but noise. Noise disguised as productivity. Noise masked as hustle. Noise I told myself was faith in action, when really it was fear in disguise. I filled my days with checklists. I filled my heart with urgency, and still I felt empty. I worked harder. I got louder. I got results, but I didn't get peace. Because striving is seductive. It gives you the illusion of control. It makes you feel like you're doing something. But spiritually, it's quicksand. The more you move, the deeper you sink. The challenge wasn't the silence, it was my resistance to it. The twist, when I finally collapsed, when I had no more strategies, when I could no longer force open the door I'd been banging on for years. It opened by itself, not because I figured it out, but because I finally let go of needing to figure it out. And the stillness became my sanctuary. What I used to call delay, I now call mercy. What I used to call stuck was actually sacred stillness. Heaven wasn't holding back, it was holding me back until I was safe to bless. So I'm telling you now, stop striving, stop performing for an audience that isn't watching. Stop knocking on doors you were never meant to enter with your ego intact, because heaven does not reward the loud. It rewards the surrendered. The miracle doesn't come when you prove yourself. It comes when you lose yourself. Stillness is not absence of motion, it is presence of meaning. And maybe that's why your soul feels bruised tonight. Maybe that's why your prayers echo back in silence, because you've mistaken striving for seeking. And those are not the same thing. You don't earn divine alignment, you allow it. And allowance only comes when the self is silent. So be honest with yourself. Are you actually open to receive, or just desperate to control? Because what you call faith might still be fear in a costume, and what you call persistence might still be ego with a halo. There's a difference between sacred pursuit and anxious grasping. One is rooted in surrender, the other in scarcity. And the divine does not move through scarcity. Now hear me. What God begins in the dark, He reveals in His time. You think the silence means rejection. You think the delay means denial. But let me remind you, seeds don't grow in sunlight. They begin in soil, in darkness, unseen, unknown, uncelebrated. You feel buried, but maybe you're actually planted. The quiet season is not punishment, it's preparation. If you can't be trusted with silence, you won't survive the spotlight. I remember a time when every door seemed shut, when every yes turned into a not yet, when the nights were long and the answers were few, and I hated it. I thought I had done everything right. I thought I had earned my moment, but heaven doesn't operate on earning. It operates on becoming, and what I didn't realize is that I wasn't being punished. I was being purified. I didn't need a breakthrough. I needed to break down to the bare bones of my belief, to see whether I actually trusted or just tolerated the waiting room. And when I stopped performing, when I stopped needing applause, when I stopped defining myself by progress, that's when it started. Not loud, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, in sacred sequence. The same doors I'd banged on opened without my touch. The same answers I'd begged for arrived without announcement. Because divine timing is never late. It just doesn't work on your clock. It works on your capacity. If it hasn't come yet, you're still becoming the version of you that can carry it. The delay is not in the blessing. The delay is in your becoming. So today, I'm not asking you to try harder. I'm not asking you to pray louder. I'm not asking you to do more. I'm asking you to stop. Stop striving. Stop proving. Stop chasing what's already yours in spirit. Your soul is tired because it's been trying to carry what only surrender can unlock. So here is your moment. Get still. Get honest. Get small. So the sacred can finally grow inside you. Because the noise, it was never you. The striving, it was never you. The panic, the proving, the pretending, none of it was ever you. Who you are beneath the noise is ready, but you must become still enough to hear it. Because the divine does not shout, it waits, it whispers, and it only speaks when the soul is ready to listen. A delayed blessing is never a denied calling. What is real will never pass you by, but you must be empty enough to carry it. The breakthrough comes when the heart no longer demands it. The door opens when there's nothing left to prove. Carol to pray, you wait, you hope, you hold on, and somewhere along the way, you begin to wonder, is any of this even working? You've done everything right. You've surrendered. You've let go. You've silenced your voice and chosen faith instead of panic. And yet the delay stretches longer. The silence grows louder. The waiting becomes its own kind of war. You watch others rise. You see doors open for people who didn't fight the way you did, who didn't bleed the way you did, who didn't suffer the way you did. And something inside you begins to whisper, maybe you were never chosen. Maybe your calling expired, but I came to ask you one question. What if delay isn't a punishment, but a preservation? What if that silence you hate is the proof that the calling is still alive? Because listen, if it weren't real, you wouldn't feel this deep ache. If it were truly over, you wouldn't be haunted by this quiet expectancy. A false dream dies quickly, but a real calling lingers, and lingers until it is fulfilled. You are not being ignored. You are being emptied for something weightier than you thought you were ready for. I remember the day I learned this. Everything had fallen apart. Not publicly. No, that would have been too easy. This was the private kind of collapse. The silent implosion of dreams I never told anyone I carried. The ones I only dared to whisper in prayer. And when nothing came, no answer, no breakthrough, no confirmation. I told myself the lie we all tell at our lowest. Maybe it just wasn't meant for me. But silence is never proof of absence. In fact, the deepest transformations always happen in silence. Not because life is ignoring you, but because the noise must die before the soul can speak. That year I stopped striving. Not in defeat, but in exhaustion. I had no more energy to push the breakthrough. No more ego to force the outcome. And strangely, that's when the door opened. That's when what I was chasing began to chase me. Why? Because when your spirit finally lets go of its need to prove, you become magnetic to the very thing you were once repelling. We don't attract what we beg for. We attract what we become still enough to hold. Here's the truth most won't say out loud. Delay is not denial. It is the divine reshaping you from the inside out until you are light enough to carry the weight without it crushing your spirit. You say you're ready, but your peace still depends on the outcome. You say you trust, but your identity is still tied to what hasn't happened yet. You say you've let go, but secretly, your demand is louder than your surrender. That is not peace. That is pressure in disguise. And what is born from pressure is always fragile. You weren't built to demand your calling. You were built to embody it. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being seasoned in silence, so that when your moment arrives, you are no longer the type of person who needs it to prove anything. That is when it comes. That is when the shift happens. Not when your will is strong, but when your attachment is gone. Not when your voice gets louder, but when your soul becomes quieter. The breakthrough isn't waiting on time. It's waiting on you to no longer need it as your identity. And if you're honest, you know this. The thing you want most has already begun transforming you in the waiting. That was the real breakthrough all along. So what now? Now you let go of your timeline, your logic, your self-made requirements for what should be happening by now. Now you allow the divine intelligence behind the delay to finish its perfect work. You didn't miss it. It didn't skip you. You are not too late, and your blessing is not too far gone. But you must become someone who can hold it without it holding you. You've waited long enough in torment. Now wait in peace. Now trust without begging. Now let the breakthrough come when it chooses. Not when you demand, because the blessing that matters, the one that transforms everything, will not arrive through striving. It will arrive through stillness, through surrender, through the quiet certainty that says, even if it never comes, I am whole, and it's in that moment the door creaks open. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped needing it to prove your worth. The delay was never a denial. It was a divine shift within you. And now you are ready.
You were never forgotten, just forged. You were never behind, just being made ready. The silence was not absence. It was alignment. You don't need to beg for what's already yours. You don't need to chase what's already written. You just need to surrender completely, unapologetically, and without conditions. Because the breakthrough doesn't come when your voice gets louder. It comes when your heart gets quiet. And the blessing, it never left. It simply waited for the moment you would stop resisting and start receiving. So here's the soul-piercing truth. You are not being delayed, you are being delivered. Let the noise fall. Let the striving break. Let the silence speak. And when it does, don't interrupt it.